Okay, in the last video, we saw what happens when two parties are not able to cooperate and coordinate their behavior before making a decision. We looked at the prisoner's dilemma game, and we looked at the golden balls with Steve and Sarah. And the question came up, how can we ever get cooperation where both parties end up with a cooperate strategy as opposed to a defect strategy? Or in this case here, how can we get both parties to choose split as opposed to the steal ball? And in this episode of Golden Balls, you saw Nick use an ingenious strategy for doing so. So let's start off explaining it with a typical prisoner's dilemma game. Ibrahim and Nick are both going to decide whether to split or steal. If they both choose a split ball, they get 6,800 pounds each. If they both choose a steal ball, they get nothing. If Nick chooses a split ball and Ibrahim chooses a steal ball, then Ibrahim walks away with 13,600, and we're going to say that Nick walks away with minus 100 pounds because he's frustrated and angry that Ibrahim stole. And the opposite is true if Ibrahim chooses split and Nick chooses steal. And we looked and saw that the best outcome is for their mutual interest is for both to choose split. They end up with 13,600 pounds. If they both choose steal, it's the worst possible outcome. They both end up with nothing. It's in their mutual interest to choose split, but it's in their individual interest to choose steal, as long as the other one chooses a split. But since both of them have an interest to choose steal, we end up with the steal option. So if we choose what we've taken, we look at what we've talked about already, regardless of what Nick does, Ibrahim's best interest is to steal. He gets more by stealing regardless of Nick's output, what Nick chooses. Same thing with Nick. If Ibrahim chooses split, Nick's best option is to steal. If Ibrahim chooses steal, Nick's best option is to steal. So they end up at this lower right-hand quadrant. And this is the problem with non-cooperative games, is both parties have an incentive to choose the option that's worst off for their mutual interest. Nick was pretty ingenious. Nick took away that option. He said he's going to steal. 100% he's going to steal. There is no split decision for Ibrahim to decide on. Ibrahim now has to look at what's he going to do. He can either get 0 or he can get 6,800. This forces him to choose a split ball. Knowing this, Nick then also can choose the split ball, and they end up with this outcome here, both getting 6,800. So what Nick did is he used a credible commitment that I'm going to pick the steal ball. 100% I'm picking this. You now have a choice. You either trust me and you choose the split ball, or if you choose the steal ball, we both end up with nothing. Now, really, that wasn't a simultaneous game. That was a sequential game. And so this gives us an opportunity to now look at a sequential game. Had Nick chosen to split, then Ibrahim could choose to split, and they'd end up in 6,800. Or Ibrahim would choose to steal. He would walk away with 13,600. Nick would end up with minus 100. Now, just so you understand this, in a subsequent interview, Ibrahim admitted that he was determined to steal the whole way. So given Nick's strategy, he actually got Ibrahim to reverse his own strategy that he was committed to doing the whole time. That's what he would have chosen. If Nick had chosen split, Ibrahim was certainly going to choose steal. And so what Nick did is he took that option away from Ibrahim. He said, I'm going to steal. 100% I'm going to steal. Now you have to make a decision. If you choose steal, we walk away with nothing. If you choose split, then this is what's going to happen. If they choose split, then Nick has to make a decision. Does Nick honor his agreement to split it afterwards, or does he cheat and leave Ibrahim with nothing? And so this is what Ibrahim is looking at. Ibrahim has to look forward and say, if he honors his commitment, I get 6,800. If he cheats, I get minus 500. But look at Nick's payout. If Nick cheats, he's going to get 13,600. I'm going to get nothing. If he honors, he'll only get 6,800. But here's the beauty of this. If we look at the expected value, Ibrahim could have been 93.15% certain that Nick was going to cheat and not honor his agreement afterwards, and it would still be in his best interest to go ahead and pick the split ball. So it was an ingenious move on Nick's part to commit Ibrahim to a strategy of splitting and cooperating. We could see this in other ways as well. We can look at, say, a new entrant with an incumbent airline. So you have a discount airline who is going to enter a market. Let's say it's between two small towns. or two smaller cities. We could say Charlotte, North Carolina, and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. These would be two cities that an incumbent airline already flies between, and let's say it's really the only airline between these two cities, so it charges a monopoly price. And it now has to decide whether, the discount airline has to decide whether it wants to enter the market or not enter the market. And when it does enter the market, it has to know that the incumbent is going to react. The incumbent may react by simply retaining prices, or it may react by engaging in cutthroat competition. Now, if it retains its prices when the discount airline enters the market, it's going to get $9 in monopoly profit, and the new entrant will get $7. If the new entrant, the discount airline, does not enter the market, then the incumbent airline keeps its current monopoly profit of $20, and the discount airline doesn't get anything. It gets $0. If, however, the incumbent engages in cutthroat pricing, it's going to lose $5. It's going to price below its cost, causing it to lose, and if it does, then the discount airline is going to have to do that, and it's going to lose $5 because it's not going to ever recoup its investment just starting up. The lower right quadrant really is meaningless because if the discount airline doesn't enter, then there's no reason for the incumbent to cut its prices. So really that's not going to be an option. But what we can look at is we can see that the best incentive is for the incumbent airline to retain prices, to go ahead and keep its price. If it doesn't want to lose money, it wants to keep its price high and let the discount airline enter into that market. It will earn $7 profit. And so the discount airline knows that it's going to enter the market because it knows the incumbent airline is not going to engage in cutthroat pricing, so its best strategy is to be up here with the enter the market. The incumbent airline will go ahead and retain its high prices. However, this isn't always the case. If the incumbent can credibly commit that it's going to cut its prices below its cost, therefore driving the new entrant out of business, then the new entrant's best strategy is to not enter that market, and you end up with the airline not entering and the incumbent airline retaining its $20 monopoly profit. But it has to credibly commit that it's going to cut its prices if the new entrant is going to enter the market. Again, we can do this using a sequential game. The new entrant either decides to enter or not, so if it doesn't enter, it gets nothing. The incumbent airline is going to get $20 in profit. If it enters, then the incumbent has to decide whether it's going to cut its price, in which case it's going to lose $5, or if it's going to retain its current price, at which point it's going to earn $9. And so obviously it's in the best interest here, or what it looks like the best interest, the short-term interest of the incumbent, to go ahead and keep its current price. But it wants to eliminate that strategy whatsoever from the new entrant's decision tree, and therefore the new entrant sees that it either gets nothing or minuses $5, therefore it's not going to enter the market, and this becomes the best strategy for the new entrant. Next thing we're going to do is watch a clip from A Beautiful Mind to see the origination of game theory and how this came about, and we'll get back to this after that.